but you can be happy and still moving forward. You can still be climbing the ladder. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast, very fun episode for you. Growth, pain, and everyone knows more than you. Let me tell you what I've learned over the past 13 years, and especially the last 2 months, that have given me juice and energy to be the best optometrist, to run the best practice I possibly can. With the closing thought of the episode, this is the Ultimate OD podcast. Here we go. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast. Thank you for listening. The messages, the emails, love it. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, follow us. This is fun. I do this because I enjoy talking about optometry. It's made me so much better on so many different fronts. So, for better or worse, here I am, and I'm going to keep coming at you with this. Something that I saw in the news, and I love sports, college football. I think sports are a great training ground for leadership. Okay, the thing about sports for me, I mean, high school, middle school, high school, growing up, I was one of the best. Got to college and just not one of the best. It's really hard to try to have that mentality that I have to be a leader, alpha male, you know what I mean, or just alpha in your context, and be so inferior just because of physical attributes. But when you got to academics, I felt I was I had more of the attributes. So really cool to think about and see, but I still look to sports all the time. And Scott Frost, I saw this quote from him and it made me start thinking. When you are climbing the ladder of success, sometimes they do not tell you to stop when you are happy. Now, if you know anything about Scott Frost, if you don't, I'll kind of fill you in. He was an amazing football player, University of Nebraska, won the Heisman Trophy, the best player in the land. Never really pinned out in the NFL, but got into coaching, and he was at University of Central Florida. And that's not one of the bigger schools, and got them to be really good. Went to a big time game before they had a playoff, and then he left UCF to go to his alma mater, Nebraska, and just bunch of bad luck. Nebraska's been snake bitten, it seems like, and got fired. Like 3 years in, the Golden Boy's coming home, and he got fired, right? And 3 years later, he's back at UCF, and that was his quote. And funny enough, Rich Rodriguez, another coach that, I think 2001's, early 2000s, maybe 2011. I'm off on my dates. But he was at West Virginia and made that into an amazing football program. Left West Virginia, went to the University of Michigan and fell on his face. Got fired, went to Arizona, didn't work out, got fired, and he's back at West Virginia, right? In same context, he's like, I should have never left West Virginia. And why that's in my mind is hindsight's always 2020, right? When I look at where I was at the past 5 years, 6 years, I could have grown much quicker. I could have taken the next step, but I didn't, because I was happy, right? And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Why didn't I take that next step? Why did I stay where I was? And know this, that when you're in business, when you run an office, it's going to be painful. You're going to feel pressure. And one of the things that you'll notice is everyone thinks they know more than you, right? Your staff thinks they're smarter than you. Like outside people looking at how you run your business will offer you advice, suggestions, all good things, but they see a fraction of what's going on, right? For example, I talk to other doctors, and I've talked to a lot of different potential associates, and all of them are like, oh, we know billing really well, right? Good. And that one aspect of billing, they don't understand the economics of everything else, right? Or a staff member thinks they know their little aspect better than you. And they're like, well, why don't we do it this way? Well, because Sally over here can't show up on time, or we have been trying for 6 months to hire someone to replace this person, and this is why we're at, right? So those are just things that you need to be aware of, right? And when I first started, the everyone knowing more than you, or the all the advice coming in, I just was a complete deflection. Nope, I'm going to do it my way. And that was small minded, right? I didn't grow a lot because I wasn't reaching out to get advice. And the thing is, now when I hear those things like, oh, billing could be better, sure, tell me, let me see how. Or this aspect of the office could be better, let me see how. One of the key things, though, is I've surrounded myself with people that are level up from me, that are better than me, and they've proven it year over year over year. Not that the other people aren't, but it gives me perspective as well. So I get that input, and I can talk to other doctors and be like, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, yeah, we tried this. Or, yeah, you should be doing this. It's just great to have that sounding board. So I'm open to all advice, and I've done enough too that I know what's going to happen. Or I don't know what's going to happen. I'm more comfortable in my own skin, right? In addition, the growing understanding there's pain and pressure, it's all relative. So when I first started out, I started cold. I lived and died with every single patient. If the patient had a bad experience, I was a bad doctor. If they had a great experience, I was a good doctor. I was outcome based. And I've eliminated that from my mentality. Did I practice the way I wanted? Did I do everything to the best of my ability? Then the patient's reaction is not a reflection of me as a doctor. But I had to learn that. When I talked to my associate and I asked how things went at times, there would be a conversation of, well, they didn't do anything, so I didn't do so good. No, we're not outcome based. That will drive you crazy. Did you do what you're supposed to do? Did you feel good about the presentation that you made? And letting the patient know what's best for them, right? That's how you judge yourself, right? But I would live and die, roller coaster. And again, I started cold. It was my livelihood. And I felt like, oh man, I have 2 employees. I didn't feel as much pressure of letting them down, but I did feel pressure to provide, for them, to take care of the patients. I had some people invested in me that I didn't want to let down. But at the end of the day, the pressure I was feeling, I was single and I had no obligations, right? Perspective. I look back now, and the pressure I felt is no different than the pressure I feel now. But I look back at that time and I'm like, you have zero worry. That's how all the people that are a step or 2 above me look at me and be like, you are in a good place right now. This is nothing. Just like a cold start doctor, I'd say you have a lot to learn, but you have no obligations. You have no worries. You have time to figure it out, right? So that early time, I was really growth minded. Always wanted to be more. I started a second office, and was that a crap show? I had like 11 staff members, but they were all part time. And they dictated to me when they were going to work. And yeah, you can imagine how that went. I had a streak of 3 weeks straight where I had a staff member quit. And by quit, I mean, leave me a letter or leave me a key. Wouldn't even say it to my face. 3 weeks in a row. That was a exciting time, right? So I now have 2 offices, 1 million staff members that are not rowing in the same direction. And somehow I righted that ship. Now, 2019, 5 years in, I'm like, yeah, don't want to hire another doctor. I just want to go back to the home base. And that's where I think of that Scott Frost or Rich Rodriguez. They don't tell you to stop when you're happy. Oh, it's just going to be one office and keep it simple. Keep my overhead low, making tons of money. It's a great environment to be in. But you know what happens if you run a good business? It grows. And you can't stop that. Like, if you're not willing to expand and push the limits and be the best that you can be, you're going to get overtaken. And that's why I have the office that I have right now. Is the other office in town, the older docs didn't push the limit. They got happy. And it allowed me to come in and do what I'm doing. Now, granted, could they have, they could have done more. They could have really expanded and 4 doctors under one location and served the whole community, right? Like, that could have been done. That's my dream. I'd love to have a single location with like 4 to 5 docs. That's awesome, right? That's easy overhead. You're there. I'm still going to try and do that, but at the same time, you have to keep pushing forward. And now that I have this new office, right? Associate doctor, staff members, I have pressure again, right? It's a huge investment monetarily. My cash flow is now my cash flow is strained to this extent that I increase my overhead for rent. I increase my staff. I increase with an associate doctor. We're seeing more patients, but not a huge amount yet. Like, it takes time. You don't just open up the floodgates and go, right? I wish I could. But it's the same pressure I felt when I started. And now I have 4 kids. They go to a private school. I have a mortgage. I have staff that I really look and care about and I've got to know over a decade plus. I have patients that are looking at me, expecting me to provide a level of care. And that's just the name of the game, right? I know now, because of the experiences I went through, what I started off at. And when I started the second office, this is just the season. I'm going to be fine. Anyone above me looking down, and I've talked to them, I've sought out advice. You're in a good position. You're going to be fine. This is the journey, right? And I could be with that mentality, well, this is it. I just want to be happy. But I know if I have that mentality, I will get overtaken. Okay? So, what's the lesson? What am I trying to share with you in this? Let me give you some observations. Okay? And this is going to be what I've observed over the last 2 months and how this applies to your practice, you in your current situation. Okay? Number 1, the further I am from day-to-day operations, the less stress I have. I've never had the ability to say that. I've always been the core and key. Look, patient would walk in the office and I was literally right there. The further I am away from day to day, less stress. That's pretty cool to know. But I will tell you this. When I'm not seeing patients, I really stinking enjoy the day to day. Fancy that, right? I am in the right place because I like managing my staff. I like running the office. But it's hard when I'm seeing patients. Now, at the same time, do I just want to run an office? When I'm seeing patients and I'm not doing the day-to-day, my Mondays and Tuesdays in my mind, mainly my Mondays, because it's just me in the office, I stack my schedule. It is so fun. Right? It's incredibly fun, incredibly easy. Like, I've done this so much. I have such a routine that it's hard for me not to imagine myself seeing patients because I've got it down to a science. My staff flows, supports me. The patients have a great experience. It's what built what I have right now. It's really fun. I love that aspect. So I love running the office. I love seeing patients. However, when I'm seeing patients and running day to day, my life quality is crap. It drains me. That's I've been doing that for 13 years. And I just now realized that the stress, the strain, the struggle is when I'm trying to wear 2 hats and I'm trying to do them equally well. It can be done. Well, it's something that can be done. I've done it. But like I said, don't get joy out of that. I like the separation of the two. Okay? Where I go from here, we'll figure out. But that is a huge realization for me as I move forward. I think it's awesome to know, and I'm trying to set my office up in such a way that I can do both independently and equally well. Okay? So what am I going to say to you? When you're going through your day-to-day, whether it's as an associate, as a private practice owner, whatever it is, what gives you energy and what drains you? What do you look forward to doing? Like, I used to honestly, when it was Mondays, not bad, but it'd be like, oh, Monday. Here we go again. It's going to start the chaos. Mondays now in my world, easiest day of the week. Let's go. Me by myself, incredible. Like, I have a huge support staff because we're staffed for 2 doctors, but it's just 1 doctor that day. I'm going to go in and see patients and nothing else. Right? I'll do a little bit of the day-to-day, but compared to what I do the rest of the time, easy peasy. Right? Tuesday, Wednesday, when I'm trying to wear both hats, a little bit harder. And then come Thursday afternoon, when I see my last patient on Thursday, I'm like, excellent. I have time to work on the business. I have like hour-long meetings with my managers. I meet with the optical team. I'm seeing results. It's fun. I can put time into it and see the results I want. Where before, when I'm trying to wear all the hats, see the patients, and do this, not doing anything to the maximum level that I felt I could. So really cool to see that. You need to see that in yourself, because I guarantee there's things you're doing that are draining you. Find a way to delegate them. Get them off your plate. The things that give you energy, do more of those. Okay? I'll tell Scott Frost, I'll tell Rich Rod, if they ever had any sense to listen to this podcast, they never will. They're way above my pay grade, right? But you can be happy and still moving forward. You can still be climbing the ladder, right? It's finding that journey. Like me, I love the grind. I like to build, mentor, and grind. Like, and that's the fun part. Like, I'm going to keep growing and expanding because I know at some point, the office I have right now, I'd love to be able to add multiple doctors to this location. I'm going to max that out, but I'm going to hit my ceiling. I'm going to cap out, and I'm going to get complacent. That's what I fought it for like 5 years, but I got so to the point that I wanted to do more that even though the money was great, the stress level was, in all reality, relatively low. It was easy peasy. Show up, do my work, and just carry on, right? I could manage everything as is, not a lot of moving parts, but I got bored. And if you're 40 years old and you've reached the top, I don't think that's what you're looking for. That's not what I want out of life, for me at least, right? You can still be climbing that ladder. So you just have to figure out what that means to you, okay? Deep, hard questions to ask, but find out what that means to you. And then I'll leave you with two last things. One, like, seasons change, but embrace the season that you're in, right? You may think, I'm never going to have another office, or I'm never going to start a practice on my own. 10 years later, you might have a different thought. Circumstances will dictate a lot of what you decide to do, okay? I've heard so many stories where they never wanted to start a practice, but they lost their job as an associate, or the doctor running the office just didn't align with their beliefs and desires, and they got let go, or they had to leave. They're like, forget it, I'm going to do it on my own. And they figured it out and they did it. So embrace the season you're in. Always have the mentality that you might have to do this. So take it in. Never just be a cog in the machine. Always get information. Always look at what you're doing and say, I'm really happy. I like my situation, but if I were to grow, what would I do? Where's my weak points? By starting that second office that I ended up closing, I'm so much better now. I also know what the hurdles are to have multiple offices. Will I be able to do it? Absolutely. Is it going to be hard? Yes. But I've experienced enough to know that now. It's not as much of an unknown. So give yourself as many experiences as you can and fail. Fall on your face. Mess up. But do it your way. And that's the last thing I'll leave you with, is we've had patients that don't necessarily see eye to eye with how we run our practice. If I'm going to do something at this point in my life, I want to practice optometry a certain way, right? It's my practice, my business. How do I want to practice? And I'm going to do that. We had a review that the doctor tried to sell me dry eye drops for my dry eye, or the doctor suggested a supplement because I had diabetic retinopathy. Yep. You don't want that? I'm not the doctor for you. This is not the office that you're going to come to. I'm fine with that. We're not the right flavor for every person, but the people that appreciate those things will love us. And I'm fine with that. I will go to bed at night knowing that I'm doing it my way. That the whole thing that everyone knows more than you or thinks they can do it better. I see coaches, and I use the sports analogy, that get a chance. They work their whole life, and they're running a team. And they have this view of an offense that they want to run, or a defense, or how they're going to run their practices, run their team. And they don't take off right away. And some coaches just keep grinding through because they have faith. Other coaches start doing it a little bit different because they start to feel the pressure. They start to hear the noise. Both coaches may fail, but the coach that did it their way, that's who I want to be. Because at the end of the day, you may get one shot at this. You're not guaranteed another. Go out doing it your way. And if you fail, you'll learn and you'll try again. If not, in the world of optometry, you are very sought after. You can make a great living being an optometrist. And honestly, when I look at anyone that has a private practice mentality that's running an office, if you got a chance, and you mess it up, go and just be an employee or get a job. Seeing patients is going to be so simple compared to running the office. Stat cash, try again. Right? You will get exactly what you want out of life. Just don't stop searching for it. So that's a little bit of perspective that I can give you from my experience and things that I want you to do. Just find out what gives you juice. Find out what drains you. 13 years I had to figure it out. You can be happy and still moving forward. Seasons change, but embrace the season that you're in and do it your way. Don't be stubborn and not change for the better. But if you firmly believe in something and you're doing it because that's what gives you joy, that's what gives you juice, do it your way. That's what I got. We'll have more for you next week. Where has the time gone? We are to the closing thought of the episode, and I will leave you with this thought. I was complaining that I had no shoes till I met a man with no feet. Confucius, my man. Dropping knowledge. And this is a great quote for this podcast, because if you listen to this, I hope you don't think I'm giving you sour grapes. Like, oh, I have so much pressure, I have so much whatnot. I know there are 99% of ODs that are looking at me and would love to be in the position I'm in. Love to have the problems that I have, because I'm one of those people. I love where I'm at, right? I, though, want to give you perspective of what I'm going through. However, whatever your struggle is, whatever you think is your kryptonite, realize there are schools of ODs looking at you and wishing they were where you were at. Never lose that perspective. That's what I have for you. Dr. Lily out.